Tonight, Saskatchewan's government says its books are set to tumble into a deep deficit of more than $400 million. A father finds closure in the conviction of his son's killer, nearly 2 decades after the Regina Beach murder. And remembering curling legend Colleen Jones, the former CBC reporter has died after a fight with cancer.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It's Tuesday, November 25th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Alexander Silberman. The Saskatchewan government says it's bracing for a staggering budget deficit, climbing to more than $400 million by the year's end. The bleak outlook comes after the province predicted a surplus in the spring. And as Jeffrey Tram shows us, tariffs are part of the unexpected economic hit.
Today, I'm pleased to deliver the 2025-26 mid-year report.
Saskatchewan's finance minister projecting an even deeper deficit, blaming global challenges.
Obviously, we'd like to be in a balanced situation, but I have to be realistic too. There's not a balanced budget across the country right now.
The deficit is a stark shift from the budget announced in the spring, projecting a $12 million surplus. But the province now forecasts a $427 million deficit. Expenses have risen to over $500 million. That jump mainly due to the cost of wildfires and healthcare.
I'd like to be back in a surplus position, but a lot of the economic factors we're dealing with, most of them, in fact, aren't provincial issues, they're geopolitical issues.
Total exports down by $1.4 billion due to lower oil and gas prices. And U.S. tariffs are hurting profits in the forestry and metal sectors, while Chinese tariffs are hitting canola producers hard. Despite those pressures, the government remains optimistic.
We are in the best position of any province in the country.
But the opposition NDP argues the numbers show mismanagement.
When we have a government that can't budget, that isn't even honest with the people of Saskatchewan, that wastes dollars in these ways.
The government, defending its budget, says the financial pressures are largely outside of its control.
We made the best estimates we could with the information we had at the time.
The minister expects next year's budget to also run a deficit. He says talks with Ottawa over the industrial carbon pricing are ongoing and warns the results could deliver another economic blow. Jeffrey Tram, CBC News, Regina.
The provincial auditor will take a closer look into Saskatchewan's wildfire response plan. Tara Clemett's office says it will conduct an in-depth review of the public safety agency responsible for fighting the fires. The government says it's also examining its wildfire response, but the official opposition says a fully independent review is needed and is renewing calls for a public inquiry.
Clearly, the Sask party failed to manage this disaster response from day one, and it's the people of the North who paid the price in so many ways.
The auditor will also review the province's multi-million-dollar purchase of new water bombers. A private BC company claimed in court that the government paid $100 million more than it should have. Findings from the audit are expected to be released next year. And the Saskatchewan government is confirming cockroaches were found at the Regina General Hospital. The bugs were found in rooms at the mother-baby unit last month. Health Minister Jeremy Cockrell says the hospital immediately cleaned the rooms after hearing the report, and he says there's no further evidence of cockroaches.
It was found that the cockroaches were brought in by a patient and their family, and you know, the reality is that regardless of how people show up, the Saskatchewan Health Authority's job is to provide dignified and respectful care to whoever shows up at our doors. So, you know, obviously when situations like this are discovered, those rooms are blocked off. You know, the Saskatchewan Health Authority works with pest control vendors to make sure that that can get cleaned up.
The opposition NDP says it's also heard reports of mouse droppings at the hospital. It suggests those issues may be due to understaffing. New technology is helping cattle farmers sell beef to foreign buyers. The U.S. and the Canadian Beef Improvement Network announced their partnership at Agribition. State-of-the-art DNA testing and analysis services for cattle will soon be available in Saskatchewan. Until now, Canadian beef producers needed to send tissue samples to the U.S. or overseas for testing. The U.S. will now start to test samples, resulting in shorter wait times. The city of Saskatoon has approved its police budget, and that means property taxes will rise by nearly 5% over 2 years. Police spending now represents a quarter of the entire city budget. The net budget for 2026 and 2027 is nearly $300 million. Council voted 9-2 to approve it. The police chief says the force will be able to recruit and hire more officers.
Right now, based on an arbitration award that was higher than expected, this is where we sit. And so I think it would be an error to think that the entire budget increase is simply a direct result of requests for growth. That's not the case.
The chief says the force did community consultation before launching its strategic plans. That includes improved staffing and a more responsive 911 center. Saskatoon advocates are speaking out over an alarming rise in people experiencing homelessness. The latest point-in-time count, conducted last month, shows the number creeping up toward 2,000 people. That's 30% higher than a year ago. Saskatoon City Planning Director says it's a disturbing trend.
And I think it's important to remember that these are all individuals that are experiencing a variety of challenges, and that we have a number of systems in Saskatoon and across the province that are incredibly challenging to navigate for people.
Anderson also says services are being stretched beyond the limits. On the day of the count, all the emergency shelters were at full capacity. And housing advocates say that it's not just people with mental health or addictions issues who are homeless. There are people who simply can't afford rent or food, and many of them are seniors. The father of Misha Pavelick says he's finally finding peace after the conviction of his son's killer. The verdict comes nearly 2 decades after he was stabbed and killed during a graduation party in Regina Beach. Aaliyah Marco Ameni spoke with Pavelick's father about his journey towards closure.
Lauren Pavelick spent 19 years with a cloud looming over his head, often wondering what would happen next. Now, with his son's killer convicted, Lauren says he's waking up to peace and clarity.
I love people. I love what I do. I love my life. But there was always something missing in the context of my son. Okay, that's not going to change, but my attitude this morning was, I'm optimistic.
Lauren reflected on a moment during the month-long jury trial, a moment when he says he decided to turn away from his feelings of resentment and anger.
You cannot fill the hole of resentment or anger. It'll absorb any goodness that's in you. So getting to a point in all of this experience, being able to say, I'm just letting go.
Lauren says it's a new feeling. Before this, he says his days were often spent reaching out to the RCMP for updates on his son's case or checking in with his family. Now, Lauren is allowing himself to heal and find closure.
I was a little bit of a cynic. In the past, when people would say, well, you need closure, and I would say, well, that's what I would do at the beach, at the beach or the cabin. I'd have closure. Season's over, I can move on. And this is different.
Lauren says he has grieved for many years but never fully got through it. He says now it feels like he's able to walk into normal life while still holding a special place in his heart for Misha. Lauren wants his son to be remembered for what he did with the short time he had to live.
That he was. He existed. And for a brief period of time, he loved life. he enjoyed life. He had friends that loved him, and he had family, loved him, all those good things.
Lorne says now he's living his life day by day and in the moment, something he hasn't been able to do for nearly 2 decades. Aliyah Marco Omene, CBC News, Regina.
Well, there might be a few piles of machine-made snow, but it's still looking like fall on the slopes of Mission Ridge in Fort Capel. But the colder temperatures are definitely welcome news for skiers waiting for the season to start. And they might have some even chillier days coming up. We'll have your full forecast right after the break. Stay with us. Canada has lost a shining light of the curling world and the broadcasting world. Former CBC reporter and anchor Colleen Jones has died after a private 3-year-long battle with cancer. Her family says she passed away in Nova Scotia with her husband and sons beside her as she gazed out at the ocean from her favorite spot. Tom Murphy looks back now on her remarkable life on the air and in the rink.
You could see it in the eyes, the intense competitor that was Colleen Jones, her unwavering focus, willing her team to victory time and time again. 6-time national curling champion, 2-time world champion.
It's just great to be on top. We worked really hard this year for this.
2-time Canadian mixed champion and world senior champion. One of the greatest curlers of all time.
Oh, I'm going fast.
And a trendsetter. She was among the first to push for higher fitness levels among all curlers. Barriers meant little to Jones, eventually coaching her own son's team at the Brier, the men's championship.
I always wanted to play in the Brier, oddly, so to be here as a coach is a dream come true.
A member of Canada's Sport Hall of Fame, she was a role model for young athletes.
It's given us friends and memories and a discipline that has stayed with us, and we're all very thankful for that, and we like to push that on to the next generation, the value of sport.
Colleen Patricia Jones.
A wife, a mother, a grandmother, and an intensely proud Nova Scotian, recognized with an Order of Canada for paving the way for women in sport and broadcasting.
Really just wanting to see what else I could do. How far can you push yourself, your mental capabilities, your technique, your ideas of trying to get better? To kind of just trying to keep chasing that was the journey I loved almost more than the winning.
As a sports commentator and CBC journalist, it was with her heart that Jones led, telling stories with empathy and a smile that put the interviewee at such ease.
Mabel Robinson's the kind of person everyone should meet.
The audience lived vicariously through her adventures.
I'm taking a break, not because I desperately need one.
You did it! You did it! As an author, she once wrote a book all about rising to the top, only to learn how easily it can all be taken away.
Have gratitude for today.
At a recent announcement for her Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame induction, a steely, positive determination even in the face of coping with cancer.
I think persevering in everything in life is just a character trait we all need to develop. That, you know, you might not like what happened yesterday. Today's a chance to make it better, and tomorrow hasn't even entered the world yet, so don't worry about tomorrow. Just be persevering today, be strong today.
True to form, a fighter to the end, the mark of a real champion, of living life to the fullest. Tom Murphy, CBC News, Halifax.
And weather specialist Mickey Wolf is here with a look at the forecast. Mickey, I was over on the ski slopes at Mission Ridge today, and it was bitterly cold with those winds, and I hear it's only going to get a little bit colder.
You are absolutely right, Alexander. If you thought it was cold today, just get ready for the weekend ahead of us. Things are definitely going to cool down. First, let's take a look at some of those chillier daytime highs we saw today in the south and central parts of Saskatchewan. You know, things are definitely below freezing across the province now that we're finishing up November. And taking a look at the skies tonight, things are looking a little bit clearer than we've seen in the past few days. We're definitely having some clearer skies tonight, definitely across that south western region in the province. Looking at the next few days, we're having a high pressure system slowly making its way out of the province, moving south. So that's going to see clearer skies, a little bit of mix of sun and cloud over the next few days, and those temperatures are going to be relatively stable. Then as we get into Friday, there's a large low pressure system moving in from the west. That's definitely going to bring in some precipitation into the province. We're not looking at huge amounts of snowfall so far. Our models are showing just up to 2 centimeters across the south and central regions, and it's very similar for the north. The snowfall is going to be a little bit more gradual. Over the next few days, we're going to see up to 2 centimeters for Buffalo Narrows and Stony Rapids, so Churchill region and the far north. Tonight, just looking at a little bit of reduced visibility in Regina and Estevan, but we're not quite seeing the same fog we've had across the south the past few nights, and that should be cleared up by the time we get into midday tomorrow. But let's take a look at some of these chillier temperatures here. For Regina, we're looking at -5 tomorrow, so still relatively warm for this time of year, very normal for this point of November. But then as we get into Saturday and Sunday, things are going to start to cool down. We are also seeing a chance of precipitation, so that Friday we might see a little bit of flurries, 40% chance, and then on Tuesday, again, we might see a little bit more snow coming into the south. In the central region for Saskatoon, we're going to see that temperature drop again Friday, Saturday. We're going to see a bit of a cool down. Those overnight temperatures are going to be almost at -20, and this is without wind chill. So things are definitely going to feel a lot colder. And then by Tuesday, we might see some flurries that'll bring in just under 1 centimeter of snow. So we're going to start to see those winter temperatures, Alexander. Winter is coming. Things are going to be even colder for you on the slopes by the time we get to the weekend.
Looks like there's no avoiding it. Time to get those puffy winter jackets out of the closet and those shovels ready.
Exactly.
Thanks, Mickey.
Thank you.
Well, China successfully launched an uncrewed spacecraft. The emergency mission is helping to bring back a team of astronauts left stranded on a space station because of damage to their return capsule. Those 3 astronauts you see over on the right side of your screen were in a precarious situation. If the space station suffered a serious problem, they would have had no way to return safely to Earth. But now a newly docked spacecraft will take the astronauts home next year. China has plans to send a crewed mission to the moon by 2030. There is spectacular new footage from NASA of a sight often seen in Saskatchewan skies. The northern lights swirling above the Earth, captured from the International Space Station. The astronaut who shot this says she's still never seen the aurora borealis from the ground, but it's a frequent show up in space. Scientists say the northern lights are appearing more often lately because of what's known as a solar maximum. Right now, the sun is at the peak of its activity in an 11-year cycle.
Rose and flows of angel hair, and ice cream castles in the air, and feather canyons everywhere.
That is Joni Mitchell's classic song, Both Sides Now. Mitchell will receive the Lifetime Achievement Award at the 2026 Junos in Hamilton. Organizers say they want to honor Mitchell's impact on music culture around the world. The 4-time Juno winner is the only 3rd person to receive the honor. You can watch the Junos live on March 29th on CBC, CBC Gem, and on our website. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. Saskatchewan Roughriders General Manager Jeremy O'Day has officially wrapped up the green and white season. O'Day is coming off a huge win for the team, their first championship since 2013. But it looks to be a busy offseason for the Riders, as many key players will hit the open market in free agency. O'Day admits trying to keep everyone on his championship roster is a tough task.
The fact of the matter is we really like a lot of the players that are on our team, and we're going to try to get as many back. When you win, and especially when you win a Grey Cup, it becomes more difficult because everyone just saw us win and how we did it, and saw players play really good football. And there's some teams that didn't have good years that want to add players that come from a Grey Cup team, right?
Key free agents for the Riders include Trevor Harris, AJ Ouellette, Sam Emelis, Dante Myers, and Keyshawn Johnson on offense. Names on the defensive side of the ball include Malik Carney, Micah Johnson, AJ Allen, CJ Rivas, and Tavon Campbell. And Mickey Wolf is back with a final look at our forecast. Mickey, it's starting to get colder and colder out there.
That's right, Alexander. Things are starting to get chilly, especially in the evenings. Let's take a look at some of our overnight temperatures we'll see across the province tonight. Things are looking quite cold in the south and central regions, dipping down to -16, -15, close to the border of the U.S. So looking very cold tonight for some parts of Saskatchewan in the south. And then tonight in the north, things are still below -10 for the most part tonight. We might see a little bit of flurries in Stony Rapids this evening. Looking towards tomorrow, we're going to see potentially a little bit of flurries for the Churchill region and the far north tomorrow, but things will be warming up relatively to about -10 for the daytime high. Looking at the south and central region tomorrow morning, off to a chillier start. We will see things warm up as we get into the afternoon. We're going to see a mix of sun and cloud tomorrow, so things will be a little bit sunny before we drop down to those colder temperatures this weekend like we saw earlier, Alexander. Things are going to be quite cold for Saturday.
Time to bundle up. Thanks, Mickey.
Thank you.
And that's how things looked in our province on this Tuesday. For more news anytime, head over to our website, cbc.ca/sask. You can also download the CBC News app. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow evening. Have a good night.